Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Chapter 5, The Living Marriage. Continuing our journey through this book about marital intimacy. This title is chaptered Embracing Intimacy. Starts off with talking about the Gemara we talked about in the last chapter, which is actually the Daf Yomi Gemara from today in the Dharim, where he brings another one of forbidden unions, Bnei Moredes. The Ravid explains Moredes, when your wife is rebelling against you. The Amrale, the Ravid says, Lo ba'inalach. She's rebelling against you. She says, I don't want you. Even if she agrees, she says, I don't like you. You're a bad husband. You don't smell good. You're not attractive to me. But, she wants to keep her marriage going. And part of keeping her marriage going is to be able to have normal conjugal relations. So she agrees. Nonetheless, she's like a prostitute. And it's an Isser according to this book. According to the Ravid, it's a terrible thing that you're doing over here. He says, of course, this doesn't mean to include play cases where he says it's only describing a state where the wife is not interested in the act itself. And she's not interested in being married to the guy. Or she generally desires the relationship the union creates, but for external reasons, she's not interested in it. E.g., she is tired, certain times during pregnancy and so on. Right? And she does a favor, like he says later on in the chapter. Sometimes the man needs it, the woman's not interested. So she does a favor for the man. She's together with the man because he needs it at that point. Sometimes the woman needs it, the man's not in the mood for it, but he'll do it out of the need for the wife because she wants it, and she's able to figure out that the wife actually wants it, and he'll do it in order to make her happy. And that's part of a good marriage because, yes, a lot of times both people want to be together, but sometimes just one of them wants to be together. If you're a good wife, you'll help out your husband. If you're a good husband, you'll help out your wife. It's a lot harder for the wife because, as we learned in the Gemara and Durham, they're not supposed to directly ask the woman to be together with them, sort of to hint it. As a husband, it's not easy to pick up on the hints of your wife, no matter how good of a husband you are. Um, this is a very short chapter. What I said before is basically what he says. He brings some interesting stories over here. He talks about, right, even Yasher al-Yasher said that this confused, rebellious wife is not just that she hates her husband and she's directly saying, I don't want to be married to you, but for the kids I'm staying around. She actually, even if she's misinformed, this is a big chiddush, a big chomrah that Yasher made. It's not a fault of her own. For example, she was misinformed, or even if the husband isn't fulfilling his obligations properly. So I understand if she's not fulfilling his obligations properly, she's rebelling against him. Okay, but then he says, what does misinformed mean? So this is what he explains. Many times, uninformed or misinformed men and women have very confused views regarding what marital intimacy is about. I once met a woman who was prepared for marriage by her grandmother and two aunts. All right, she got three ladies talking to her. They taught her, parenthesis, in quotation marks, her that a husband is like an animal that is full of uncontrollable physical desires. If she doesn't fulfill his cravings, she's a terrible wife. Therefore, they informed her she should know in advance they should expect to suffer a little. But this is the price of marriage. After a while, they explained she'll get used to it and it won't be so bad. This is an innocent woman who was taught to be a rebellious wife. She thinks that it's supposed to be not enjoyable. And apparently she was married to the guy and it wasn't enjoyable. He treated her like a piece of meat, like Omar says today himself in the Darim. He wasn't kind to her, he wasn't compassionate to her. So if that happens, uh, so she's misinformed about the marriage, and truly she doesn't want to be married to the guy because, or at least being together with him, because she she it's hurt. It's physically painful, emotionally painful. She doesn't want to be. She's called a rebellious wife. On another occasion, I met a woman who simply explained everyone likes ice cream, but I don't like ice cream. After ice cream is a reference over here to being together. After I saw that she was set in her ways and was not willing to listen to anything I would say, I took her to Rav Shach. Rav Shach asked her whether she's a normal type of woman, right, or you're not living according to the world that was created for you. Which type are you? It doesn't say what she answered. Are you a woman that is normal, that wants to be together with her husband? Or are you confused and don't want to be together with your husband? According to the author, it's a problem. Even if she expects to suffer, and she does end up suffering under the hands of her husband, she is considered misinformed and she's considered a rebellious wife, and it's forbidden to stay in a marriage like that. Um, he then um, he quotes a story at the end. A young student once approached me about 6 months after his marriage, bewildered by what was occurring in his marriage. Before his marriage, his teachers explained to him very clearly the obligation of marital relations is to fill the needs of the wife. Yet for some reason, explained the confused student, when his wife understood what was going on through his mind, she told him, "If you're worried about me, I don't need this. On the contrary, I'm willing to have relations for your needs." No one wants to feel like a beggar, the author continues, and certainly not a husband or wife toward their spouse. Couples expect to approach their intimacy with awareness they both need this, in quotation marks. And it's the way that God expects them to express their love for each other. As we learn from the words of the Ravid, it isn't enough that couples should simply love each other. Rather, they must be interested in uniting through their union itself. Even if a wife loves her husband, is willing to go through the act of marital relations a favor to him with all her good intentions, she is still considered a rebellious wife. So too, even if the husband is doing a favor for his wife, but he can no personal interest in the union, he is not relating to the truth of God's creation. Of course, he explains that it's only talking about in a general sense that she doesn't really want to be married to him. She doesn't like him, or he doesn't like her. Nonetheless, they're doing favors for each other always. That's always the case. Then it's a problem. If once in a while they're not in the mood and they're doing a favor, that's for sure okay. I happen to agree with the author on this point. Um, Women don't like to feel like beggars, and men don't feel like beggars. They want so. In this situation arises in marriage, practical advice I would give to people in marriage, especially newlyweds, you're going to experience this. A lot of times, the man is interested or the woman is interested. You should try to figure it out when the woman is interested. Because a lot of times she's interested and she's not telling you because she's not supposed to say it explicitly. Um, the general rule is that women, if they like their husband, really like would want to be together like every night. Really, that's just the way women are. Um, Men, when they're in the mood, when they have a physical desire for it, which when you get before you're married, you have more of a desire. After you're married, there's a little bit less of a desire. Um, you know, most men have a desire maybe once every 2 or 3 nights. That's normal, I think. But this what when you're gonna do it for the other person, you should make them feel that you want a relationship, and you should put effort into it. You shouldn't just lie there and do nothing, or you should put effort into it and make it that you wanna be part of this, because when the person feels even one time that they're a beggar, that no one wants to be a beggar, no one wants to get favors from another person. So you have to fake it sometime. Marriage is a big part of marriage. You have to fake, um, say things that are not entirely true. To your wife, you shouldn't criticize your wife. This is not necessarily in the bedroom. Your wife makes dinner or something like that. You shouldn't not criticize it, but right when she serves the food, I don't think it's the best idea to say, "Oh, doesn't taste good." No, tastes very good. Thank you for making this. Maybe next time she offers, "Oh, let's make the same thing you really liked last time." Didn't like it so much. It might hurt her feelings a little bit, but why should you have to suffer your entire marriage eating the same dinner that you hate? So you have to be a smart person and tell you in a nice way. If she asks you how she looks, certain times she looks overweight or something like that, or she looks good, bad, or good in a dress. If she doesn't have another dress to wear, that's her only dress. Compliment her. This is what she's wearing. If she has another dress to wear, you ask her which one she looks better, and tell her what you really think. But you shouldn't criticize your wife. It's very hard, especially women are very emotional, to criticize them about anything. They could blow up, and they could take it so personally that you really have to sort of make it up to them, that and try to convince them that you made a mistake and you were wrong, and you ask them for forgiveness, and you made a mistake, because women are so emotional, and especially an insult that comes from their husband, they take so personally, and it really could destroy their life, because a woman, as he says in this chapter, which is also true, a woman needs the love of her husband. She needs to be cherished in her husband's eyes. It's a basic need of a woman. A man doesn't need this as much. It's a good feeling for a man that his wife loves him and his wife cherishes him. But for a woman, this is a need. For a man, it's a want. For a woman, it's a need. If she doesn't have that, if she doesn't feel that way, and by insulting her, or criticizing her, even in an indirect way, you remove that feeling from her heart, and she can't live like that. So you have to restore that to her some way. You have to convince her what you said was a mistake, and you made it, and you ask for forgiveness, and you tell her it was a mistake. Try to make it up, and that's a big part of marriage is faking it, because a lot of times we're not robots. We're not robots. We're humans. Sometimes we like the way our wife looks. Sometimes we're in the mood to be together with our wives, and sometimes we're not. And if you want to have a good relationship, you want her to feel good and feel happy, so you'll fake it, even though it's going out of your way. It's mysterious nefesh. It's not something you normally do. You don't just a person wants to have a good marriage. We see from last week's parsha, 2 weeks ago parsha, last week's parsha, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu, uh, with Mishanim Bnei Hashalom, Hashem lied himself to say that Sarah said she was old, as opposed to saying Abraham was old, so they should have Shalom Bayis. You're allowed to lie for this. The Gemara says in Bava Metzia for Shalom Bayis, you're allowed to lie, and Yevamos also. You're allowed to lie for these things, and if you're allowed to lie, it's a mitzvah to lie also. You should lie sometimes to make sure you have a good relationship with your wife, because it's not really lying, because the point of marriage is that you should love each other, and if you're going to say something which insults your wife, you have to be very careful not to insult her. Don't insult her. Think 100 times before you say an insult to your wife. It's terrible for your wife, and even more so when you're in the bedroom. Say something negative about her body, um, about the way she smells, or the way, or anything negative about the woman, the way she presents herself to you. You have to think 100 times before you say that. Usually, the best thing is just to go along with it at the time, and then maybe when it comes up again, mention maybe it wasn't the best thing for me, or I made a mistake, or rather when I appreciate it when I said I liked it. Because if you do it afterward, they don't take it as personally, because ultimately a woman wants to do its own baila. She wants to make her wife happy. She wants to, in order to feel loved by her husband, she wants to make her husband happy, so she'll feel loved by her husband. So you have to be very careful with this. So a lot of this chapter I really do agree with. The part that I don't agree with is, again, this overextension and saying that a rebellious wife. I do agree if a woman is getting back at her husband, right? Some women are vindictive, especially women that have an upper hand over their husband. They're making more money than their husband. They're more attractive than their husband. They're better socially than their husband. For some reason, they got married. A lot of times, a woman will use this as power against her husband, and sometimes not fulfill the needs of her husband. There are evil people, evil women out there. Not evil women, but people become evil very easily, especially when you get into fights about other things like money and things like that. So they'll use it as an upper hand and be vindictive against their husband, and really rebel against their husband, and refuse to have relations with him. And even if they have relations with him, they'll say, nasty things to the husband. There are women out there like this, especially if you're not really a man and your wife rules over you. She's better, she's higher on the socio-sexual, measurements than you, if you know what that is. So she's has an upper hand on you. So that certainly is a rebellious wife, and the Torah says you shouldn't be with a woman like that. And I agree. I don't know if I agree that that's considered prostitution. That's what the right is. It's prostitution to be with a wife like that if she allows you to be with her, because you need to be with her. I don't think it's forbidden. It's not a good thing. This extension over here, where he's saying, brings a story where the grandmother, two aunts, told a wife that it would be painful, and she found it to be painful. Another woman who said that she wasn't enjoying her marriage at all. I think you really have to call into question what's going on in the bedroom. Whoever taught the husband is not teaching him properly. If it causes the woman pain, it should be enjoyable for the woman. And like he brings in this chapter, Ona, according to one opinion, means her time. It's her time. He says, one of the Gedolei Yisrael told me it is a custom of the Jewish people to fulfill his obligation, specifically in the wife's bed. I don't know if this is a halacha. You're supposed to be together in the wife's bed, not in the husband's bed. This is not a halacha. The reason is to show compassion and care for her, that you're coming to her, she's not coming to you. So that's basically one summary of this chapter. I did hear a podcast yesterday. I was listening to this, that a woman was saying, she's actually an expert in marriage. She was saying her first Shana Rishona was very rocky, and the interviewer asked her, why was it rocky? Can you explain why it was rocky? I don't know. Emotionally, it wasn't very good. I was very, I blew up when my husband insulted me and things like that. But At the end of the day, anytime I hear that, I say, listen, this is why you get married. This book over here, 99.99% of the problems in marriage can be traced back to the bedroom. And women who get married, the grandmother and aunts told them it's going to be painful, and it is painful for them. That is 99.9% of the marriages that go awry and have problems. That is their problem. If anyone would come to me, I'm not a marriage counselor. If anyone would come to me and say we have problems in our marriage, and they would start saying the usual things, he's mean to me, or he doesn't respect the husband saying she doesn't respect me, that's not the problem. Go back. We have to analyze what goes on in the bedroom, even though maybe it's considered someone who has someone has no embarrassment. You're not embarrassed to talk about these things. What do you mean embarrassed? You have to, there's no embarrassment when you have to talk about things which are essential to the marriage, right? You should be embarrassed to talk about these things just for the sake of enjoyment. But when it's important, when you're saving a marriage, you got to talk about these things. I don't know what marriage counselors do. I have no experience with the marriage counselors. But my estimation, what I've read in different articles, the reason they probably don't talk about it in the article, the public forum, they really don't want to talk about these ideas. But I would hope marriage counselors, whatever the problem they complain about, this one is stingy with the money, or this one, is not good with the children, or this one, you know, whatever excuses they're making, it all goes back to the bedroom. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who do experience pain in the bedroom, humiliation in the bedroom, and not unsatisfaction in the bedroom. And that's really, if it was great in the bedroom, everything was perfect in the bedroom, the husband was doing his job, the wife was doing her job, they're making each other happy as best their ability, and faking it in order to make it enjoyable for the other person when the other person needs it and you don't. If you're doing those things and you're really caring and compassionate, we'll talk about more things in the coming chapters about what you're supposed to be doing the proper way, uh, to uh, the proper way to act in the bedroom. That's really, the marriage will be a great marriage. And if it's lacking, the extent that it's lacking, it'll be a poor marriage. That's the truth. We'll talk more in the coming chapters about particulars in the bedroom. I hope so. I perused through the book. I haven't read through most of it, but we'll take it chapter by chapter. See you in the next one.